Are you feeling overwhelmed, drained, and like you just can't catch a break? It may not be your schedule. It might be your clutter. Today, we're breaking free from the chaos and stepping into clarity with 5 powerful steps to declutter your mind, your emotions, and environment so that you can live completely whole.
Good morning, or good afternoon, or maybe it's evening. It doesn't really matter what time it is, and it doesn't even matter where you are. We want to welcome you to Wholeness Wednesdays. So grab a cup of coffee or tea and join our host, Beatrice Hutchison, as we explore and experience our journey to complete wholeness.
Hello and welcome back to another episode of Completely Whole's Wholeness Wednesdays, the podcast where faith meets action to help you live a completely whole life. Mind, body, spirit, and even your finances. I'm your host, Beatrice Hutchison, and I'm excited to be here with you today talking about today's topic. In today's topic, we are diving deep into a topic that can be considered spiritual, right? Deeply spiritual and extremely practical. We're going to be talking about decluttering your life. And no, I'm not talking about cleaning out your junk drawer, right? Although we can include that. But that's not where the focus is tonight. So we're going to be talking about clearing out the chaos that's stealing your peace, draining you of your joy, and cluttering your mind, your heart, and even your home. So let's start off by talking about what is clutter, right? So you hear me talking about let's declutter, right? But so what does clutter mean? So clutter means to fill or to cover with scattered or disordered things that impedes movement or reduces effectiveness. Did you know that research shows that physical clutter can increase cortisol levels, leading to more stress and mental fatigue? In fact, there was a study from UCLA that found that women who live in cluttered spaces are more likely to suffer from depression and anxiety. Let's fix that. Let's talk about it together today. Let's fix it. All right. So now the first section I'd like to talk to you about is to declutter your mind, right? Because we are still in mental health awareness and acceptance month. And we want to make sure that we address these issues, right? We're going to talk about the natural and spiritual, but we also want to focus on the mental and emotional as well. So we want to first start off talking about decluttering your mind. So let's talk about it. Silencing the noise that you may be having in your head, right? So declutter your mind, silencing the noise. Start from the inside, right? So start with the inside. Your mind is your sacred space. And so there are times that it could be quiet around you, right? But within your mind, you can be going through so many different things. And so you may have that constant noise, right? Because your mind is constantly moving or constantly worrying or thinking about things that are not serving us well. And so, we need to have that peace of mind. Our minds are our sacred space. And so what can we do to address this, right? Because when our mind is going through so much, and sometimes some of us can really, really rehearse the things that we're dealing with or thinking about. Some people are good with just turning the switch off. Others are not, right? So you constantly go over and over in your mind and you think about it in all different kinds of ways. You try to analyze, overanalyze. And so that can lead you to not having peace of mind. And so we want you to have peace of mind. We want you to declutter your mind. And so what are some ways that you can do that? So what you can do, there's something that's called a thought download, right? So it's like a mind dump. And you can do that every morning, right? So you wake up in the morning, take the first 5 minutes, write down everything that's on your mind and all your worries, all the ideas that you have, the things that you need to do or accomplish for the day, any appointments that you have, everything that concerns that day, you need to write down. So take the first 5 minutes, write it down, and then go back and circle what actually matters, right? What is a priority in that day, right? So you want to, of course, prioritize where you need to, right? So and that's the whole purpose of going back and circling. So you circle what actually must get done that day, what matters to that day. And then the rest of it, surrender it to God in prayer, or create a plan to deal with it later when it's, when it's a priority or when you have free time to do so. But otherwise, surrender it to God and in prayer. And so especially our worries and our concerns about things that we can't control anyway, right? So surrender those things to God and in prayer, pray about them. And so there's a saying that says, if you're going to worry, then why pray? And if you pray, then why worry? So it's important that you not worry, right? So give it to God, allow God to work it out because he can. And so there's a scripture in Romans 12:2 that says, be not conformed to this world, but be ye transformed by the renewing of your mind. And so what we're talking about is going to cause for you to have to renew your mind in some areas. That means, if you're a person that is prone to or used to worrying about everything, right? It's going to cause you to renew. You're going to have to renew your mind. You're going to have to find out what the word of God says about it and really renew your mind. Allow your mind to be renewed in that area because God doesn't want that you would be worried all the time and you saw that, and you not having a whole lot of stress because it affects you mentally, emotionally, but it also affects you physically, right? And also everyone that's around you. So it is something that you have to pay very close attention to. And so you want to start and end the day, right, with a still moment, right? So whether that's prayer or you just still take about maybe 60 seconds, about a minute of silence, just so that you can clear the mental clutter, right? So I talked about the dumping, doing the brain or dump, right? But then you also, at the end of the evening, you want to also do that, right? So you want to also clear your mind because then what happens is that if you don't clear your mind, you lay down and your mind is racing and you're thinking about what you need to do and what could you do or what could you have done differently in your day, right? So then your mind is constantly racing. So it's important to also do this at night, right? So that you can clear the mental clutter that is in your mind and then create a space for you to be able to receive divine guidance, right? And so even if you create that quiet space, it allows you to be able to just be calm and to just hear from God, right? To get some guidance and some instruction on how to maneuver or go through the situations or manage the situations that you're dealing with. Next, I'd like to talk to you about declutter your emotions, release and don't repress. Emotional clutter can look like this, right? So it can be unspoken resentment, right? So you're resenting something that has happened or someone for some things that have happened that you didn't particularly like or felt, did a disservice to you or hurt you or harmed you in some way. It could also be unprocessed grief, right? Especially if you lost a loved one and you did not allow yourself to grieve appropriately. And sometimes we don't do that because, we feel like, oh, we have to be strong for everyone else. We have to keep pushing. We have to keep going. Right. And so we don't really deal with that grief. We haven't really totally processed it and really dealt with it. And so and it doesn't just have to be the loss of a loved one to death. Right. But it could also be the loss of something in your life that was important to you, right? That also will initiate a grieving process. And if you do not allow yourself to grieve appropriately, then it can really, really become an issue for you. And then also, it can also look like unresolved guilt. And that if there's something that, happened to you or something that some trauma that you experienced, or maybe something that you did that you weren't so proud of, you can have unresolved guilt that you are also carrying, right? And so that could really clutter your mind and really clutter your emotions. And so it's important that you deal with it. And so how can you deal with it? And so first you can practice emotional naming, right? So instead of just saying I'm overwhelmed, try being more specific about how you feel. You're overwhelmed about what, right? So try saying I'm grieving loss of control, right? Because I mentioned it doesn't just have to be someone to death, right? A loved one to death, but it's any loss that you experience in your life. Grief, it feels the same. And so you can say, instead of I'm overwhelmed, what is making you overwhelmed? So be more specific. Say I'm grieving loss of control, or I feel unseen, right? So be more specific. So try to name the emotions that you're feeling, right? So just to go a little bit deeper with it, not just, the surface, I'm overwhelmed, I'm sad, try to go a little deeper to really, really name and identify the emotions that you're feeling. And then something else you can do is you can write a letter to release what no longer serves you. Sometimes you need to write it down, to just kind of get it out. And then what you can do with the letter, say everything that you need to say, just release it all. And then afterwards, you can destroy the letter, right? You can throw it away, burn it, however you would like to do it, flush it away, tear it up, whatever it is that you want to do. But it will symbolize, right? It's a symbol of surrender when you destroy it. So you're surrendering it and saying, I give this to God. There's nothing else I could do with it. I got it out of my heart, right? And I released it. And so now I give it to God, and I no longer allow that thing to have control over my life. And so the scripture, Psalm 55 and 20, verse 22 says, cast your cares on the Lord, and he will sustain you. The next area I'd like to talk to you about is declutter your space. Clean house, clear spirit. Your home should reflect peace, right? Not your chaos. And so it's important, after you're out in the world and you're out there amongst all the chaos, you need to have a safe haven to come back to. So you need to have a safe home, right? You need to have one that is clear, right? One that is clear of chaos, that you want to have peace. You want to have peace in your home. If you can't find peace out there, you want to at least have it at home. And so you don't want you want your home to reflect physically what you are experiencing. So not your chaos and not all the craziness that is happening, but you want it to reflect your peace. And so now or you want it to encourage peace, right? A peaceful environment. So what can you do to encourage that? So what you can do is you can pick one area this week, right? And so this is an action step here. I want you to think about this. Pick one area this week. An area in your house that is very cluttered or is junky or whatever it is, right? And so in the beginning, I said that I wasn't going to just talk to you about cleaning your nightstand, right? Or your junk drawer, right? But I said that we would cover a little bit of it, right? Because it does matter. It does also have its place when it comes to our peace and having a peace of mind. And so pick an area, right? So whatever that is, it can be your nightstand. If you want to pick a physical space in your house, maybe your bathroom counter, maybe someplace in your living room, whatever it is where there is some clutter. So you want to choose one of those spaces. It could even be your inbox, right? So you may have an email or have multiple emails, like I do have several email addresses. And so you go into your inbox and you have tons and tons of email, lots of junk email, things that really, don't serve anything in your life, right? And so you could go in and clear out your mailbox, your inbox, and get rid of those things that you don't need, or the things that are not positive or that won't build you up. You can get rid of those things, right? So that's something that you could also look at. So it could be a physical space. It could be or your inbox, whatever it is. Just think of some place that is cluttered, right? Think about your vehicle even, right? You traveling in that space, whatever is cluttered for you. Think about that space And then we want to follow the clear 3 rule. So that means, and I'll explain that to you. It simply means to remove 3 things that are expired, broken, or haven't been used in 6 months. And so something I like to do is I like to clean out the refrigerator, right? Because then you cook and then, all of the leftovers kind of get stored there and things start to grow things and all those sorts of things, right? So that is calming for me to organize and put shelves and containers and all of that kind of stuff. For me, that gives me peace to have an orderly environment, right? Something that is neat. It helps. I feel peaceful. I don't feel anxious when everything is cluttered and things are, not neat and in order. It causes me to feel anxiety, right? So I know myself and I know what I have to do. Even to the extent that if there's junk around my bed at night, and when I say junk, I don't mean like all kinds of craziness, but if there's clothes that are not put up, right? I feel a little anxious. I need to put the clothes up so that I could rest. And so I understand that it may not be to that extent for you, right? But to each person is different. So, but we're talking about the clear 3 rule, right? So choose 3 things for you that you can remove from that space. So not even talking about clearing the entire space, right? But choose 3 things that you can remove. So things that are expired or broken, or things that you know that you haven't used in a very long time and most likely will not use. And so you need to get rid of those things. And so the Journal of Environmental Psychology found that people in clutter-free environments make healthier choices, right? Because you feel healthier, you feel better about yourself, so you make healthier choices. The next area I'd like to talk to you about is declutter your digital life. Break the scroll cycle. And this is something that so many people can really get caught up in, right? So your phone might be your biggest source of mental noise because you're scrolling, you get caught in the scrolling, especially if you're watching a reel. You can watch one and then there's so many more and you could just get caught scrolling, or you could get caught on one of your social media sites and you're interested in what's going on with this person's life, and just paying attention to everything else, right? That doesn't necessarily serve you or doesn't benefit you in any way, right? And so your phone or your device, whether it be an iPad, your laptop, whatever it is you want to, your watch or whatever it is that you use, can serve as mental noise for you, right? So it can be a great source of that. And so you have to find ways to not be so, I don't want to say addicted, right? But some people are addicted. But you don't want to be so dependent, right, on that device, right, on that digital space. And so what can you do? Because this is also very important. And so we may not understand the relevance of it, but it can impact us greatly because it can give us a lot of mental noise. It can feed into us a lot of negative thoughts, right? A lot of different opinions. It can cause confusion. So many different things. So it is something that we do need to intentionally monitor and be aware of, right? And so we need to guard our gates, right? Guard our eye gates, our ear gates, right? It's important that we be selective, right, with what we allow in, right? Because it can really impact us either positively or negatively, but it will impact us. So it's important that we be very strategic and intentional about what we allow in through our gates. And so something that you can do to kind of help with this is that on your devices, you can delete some unused apps. Sometimes you download apps and it serves you for a little while and then you're done and you'll probably never use it again, right? So get rid of those things. Also, if you are attached, sometimes people can follow different pages and it could be negative things, right? So if it's someone that's spewing things that are not conducive to what you would like to see accomplished in your life, or is not conducive or does not relate to the life that you are living, it's important that you disconnect, right? Unfollow those pages. If it's toxic in any way, then you need not be connected. And also things like gossip, right? So how does that serve you other than entertainment, right? How does that really serve you? So those things that can be toxic, but that don't serve you, right? And if it's toxic, of course, it's not going to serve you well. It's going to feed a whole lot of negativity into you. So you want to make sure that you unfollow those pages. Or if you're scrolling through, don't click on to them, right? Don't just be intentional about avoiding the things that will not speak life into you or will not edify you. And then you want to also turn off those non-essential notifications. Sometimes we set the notifications and then, it's constantly going off every time, especially if you're sometimes even with like a group chat. You can be on a chat and then every time someone in the group, sends a message, it sends you a notification, or sometimes every time, someone that you're following, every time they make a post, then the notification will go up. And so all of these things, especially if you're resting, all of a sudden you hear it and it can, like really jolt you out of your sleep or really interrupt you, right? So anything that can disrupt your peace, you want to make sure that you are intentional about removing or taking down. You can also set a tech-free zone, right? And what that means is that you designate either a physical space, right, or time that you allocate to being tech-free. So that means, for an example of this could be, no devices at the dinner table, right? Or no devices maybe 30 minutes before bedtime, right? Or before you go to sleep, right? So you can block out, times or spaces in your house where the device is not allowed to be used at that time. And so it's very important about being strategic to make sure that because it really helps us to guard our gates, right? And so we talk about affirmations here and edifying ourselves and moving towards wholeness. But we can't do that if we're allowing any and everything, right, just into our spirit, and we listen to everything and we take in everything, then we're not going to have peace. And so what we want, wholeness, right? And so wholeness is peace. And so that's what we are after, and that's what we want for each and every one of you. The next area I'd like to talk about is declutter your relationships. So choose connection over chaos. And so you have to think about this. Ask yourself this question: who has access to your peace? Who can impact your peace? Who is it in your life that can impact your peace? And I mean, so everyone can, right? So either in a positive way or in a negative way. And so you need to evaluate the relationships in your life to see whether or not they serve you well. Are they serving a good purpose in your life? Is it edifying you? Is it challenging you to be better? Is it improving you in some way? Or is it taking from you? Is it depleting you, right? Is it something that robs you of your peace, of your joy? If you have a relationship with someone and every time you speak to that person, you get low and you get depressed, right? Because sometimes you can speak to people and they can be so negative that you kind of pick up, right? That the transference is real. You may pick up on that, and now all of a sudden, when you were feeling fine, now all of a sudden you feel down and you feel drained and you feel tired, right? So those types of things you want to think about, right? You want to be around those that will cause some excitement, right? So someone that will, and it may not always be that it will leave you with a good feeling, right? Because iron will sharpen iron. So it may be someone that, is in your life that's there as the, what do you call it, the sandpaper to kind of rub you, but to make you better, right? So you want to think about those relationships. So if there are any that rob you of your peace, that just completely take away your joy, then those are relationships that you don't need in your life because they do not serve you well, right? Think about where you're going. What is it that you're trying to accomplish? What is it that you want for your life? And so if you have people around you that are contrary to that you're working towards, then those are relationships that you really don't need to have. And so something you can do that can help you with this is, make a list of 3 relationships that drain you and 3 that fill you, right? And so it may be hard to just at first glance realize whether or not this is a relationship you need to get rid of. But look at it in those 2 buckets, right? Relationships that drain you and then relationships that fill you, that encourage you. And so you want to take it before God, pray over it, and, and ask God how how you should adjust, right? Or if you should release the relationship, or if you should lean into the relationship. And so, just be really, really cognizant about, what you get from that relationship, right? Think about it and really, go before God with it and see if it's something that you need to keep. But if not, right, if everything that you can think about are all cons in relation to this relationship, then that's not a relationship that you need to keep. And so 1 Corinthians 15:33 says, bad company corrupts good character. And so what they're feeling or whatever they're saying can impact you, as I was saying, can also make you feel that way, or it can make you come out of character, right? Or it can make you change, right? It can corrupt your good character. So those are things that we want to be mindful of. And it's, easier said than done, but it's something that is important. It is imperative that you do this if you want to have a decluttered life and you want to have a peaceful life, right? If you want to have order and you want to be in good standing or in a good place to be able to accomplish all the things that you have before you, all the goals and aspirations that you have before you, it's going to take you being intentional about decluttering your space, not just the physical space, but the space here, so that you can have peace and so that you can accomplish and be at your optimal, be at your fullest potential, right? So that you can accomplish the things that you need to and would like to accomplish. So remember, the purpose of decluttering is to get rid of the clutter, right? Just very simply put, remember that clutter is disorder and it's disturbance. So it's disturbance, not just to your physical space, but to your peace, to your love, to your joy, to your hope, right? It's a disturbance. And so we want to have peace. We want to have love. We want to have joy. We want to have hope in our lives, right? We want to have faith. We want to be able to be motivated and have that momentum to do the things that we need to do and that we have, planned, and the wonderful things also that God has in store and planned for our lives. And so we cannot acquire all of those things or achieve the goals that we have set if we have a lot of disturbance, right? If we have a lot of disturbance and a lot of chaos going on around us. And so any disturbance, as I mentioned, but then there are more, right? So, and those things that disturb you, right? Those things that take away or rob you of your peace or your sanity, sometimes people will say. So these things, they can reduce your ability to move freely, right? And to reduce your effectiveness. You would no longer be as effective as you can be, or you won't be as effective as you can be, simply because you are restricted by all of this clutter in your life. And so this episode is really talking to you about and really trying to encourage you to get rid of the clutter, right? So no matter where the clutter is, and so if it's in your mind, it may be wrong thoughts, right? Having a wrong narrative, having a narrative that is not does not align with what God has said concerning your life. And so sometimes we go through situations, we go through circumstances in our lives, and we allow that trauma to dictate to us who we are and what we are worthy of and what we can or should not have, right? And so we have to get rid of those narratives. We have to find out what God is saying concerning us, because his thoughts for us are good. They're of good, not of evil. And it's to bless you, to give you an expected end. So God wants wonderful things for you. He has wonderful blessings in store for you. But it's going to take for us to be intentional about making sure we get rid of the clutter, get rid of those things in our lives that do not serve us well, so that we can make room for all of the blessings and the things that will serve us well, and that will help to push us and propel us into our future and the wonderful things that God has in store for us. And so I hope that there was something that was said tonight that gave you a little nugget or something that could help you, or if there's one thing that you could utilize in your own life, please put that into practice, because we talk about here bringing things to awareness so that we can develop or talk about practical steps to get rid of those things, because we are still on this journey to wholeness, and we want to be whole in every area of our lives. And so, in this mental health awareness and acceptance month, we want to get rid of all the chaos, get rid of all the clutter, everything in our lives that hinder us from being the best version of ourselves, everything that hinders us from being or meeting our full potential and receiving all of the great things that God has in store for us. And so I hope that you enjoyed something that we talked about, or at least found something useful. And please share it with someone else that could really use to hear these words, so that they can also know that it's time to get rid of the clutter, right? There's so many wonderful things that are about to happen in our lives, and we can't afford to have chaos and clutter. We need everything to be clear. We need to be properly aligned. We need to be open and ready to receive. And so please do share and like and subscribe and all of that, so we can continue these types of conversations as we continue our journey towards wholeness. And so, as we often do, let us affirm together. Please repeat after me. I decree that I release the chaos and embrace clarity. I declare that my life is aligned with God's peace, and I create space for what matters most. Amen. And so my prayer for you is that you will be whole in every area of your life, and that you will also get rid of all the clutter, get rid of everything that doesn't serve you, everything that hinders you, everything that restricts you. My prayer is that you'll get rid of all of that, put some things in place, and of course, have it before the Lord, and He will help, and He will really lead and guide you and let you know what to let go of, or what to lean into, or what to do. And so it's very important that you do that. And so if you are interested in diving a little deeper, if you want to go a little deeper into what we talked about tonight, if you say, what we talked about, that really is me. I could really use a resource that could even help me further along this journey. And so, if so, I have put in the chat below, I have a Declutter Your Life workbook and tracker that you could download for free and utilize. And so it just has, just some information in there, some prompts and some checklists that could really help you if this is something that really impacts your life, right? To help you get rid of the clutter. Sometimes we can use prompts, or we can, it could really help us along the process. And so that is what this resource is meant to do. So please check down in the chat. I'm sorry, not in the chat, in the description box below, and you'll be able to see the link there so that you can download it. Because we really do want to be clear of the clutter, right? We want to create room for peace, for purpose, and for all the many blessings that are coming our way. And so do check the chat for that. And hopefully I'll see you again next time. This concludes our time together. But please make sure that you take care of yourself, mind, body, and soul. And until we meet again, be made whole.
We thank you for sharing this time with us here at Wholeness Wednesdays. Thank you for joining us to explore and experience this journey to complete wholeness. Please remember that we are only an email away. Your questions and input are welcome via bhutch@completelywhole1.com. See you next time here at Wholeness Wednesdays.